Good afternoon, Matt.
I'd like to ask how you are, first of all. Are you well?
This is kind of a frustrating time of the year, really, for us, in the sense that, some of the horses might be slightly below par. So
Right.
for that reason, we'd like to be getting the show on the road.
Right. I mean, we're going to come to Dunguib in a minute. Someone else emailed me. I think it was actually on Facebook they emailed and said to me, please ask Philip what's the name of his star bumper horse. Someone thinks you've got another Dunguib up your hand. Any chance of that? Any chance of getting the name, or very unlikely, I'd imagine?
I'm afraid we don't have one, I'm afraid.
Right.
So that answers that.
Right. That means you got two then.
Exactly. We'd settle for that if we had a couple.
Let's chat about the champion, Dunguib, of course. Really good horse. We know his blood's been dodgy. Is his blood right again now?
The last test that we had done, by the way, they have come back normal, so he's back on track. Obviously, the fact his blood wasn't up to scratch, we had him kind of on the easy list. In other words, buddy, he wasn't doing any strong work, but he was cantering away every day. And since then, we have upped the work, by the way, a little.
Right.
And I'm sure he'll do a bit of work on Saturday next.
I mean, realistically, is he likely to have a run before Cheltenham, do you think? Or are you actually running out of time and he could almost go straight to Cheltenham?
Well, I'll tell you what now, Matt, we're beginning to panic a little, but the idea is that he's got to Gordon Saturday 2 weeks on the 12th.
Right.
For the Red Mill Tour, over 2.5 miles.
Right, so you stretch him out. That would be the furthest he's ever raced, won't it?
That's right. 2-2 was as far as he ever went before that.
Right, okay. So, and you feel that's a realistic target on the back of what's been wrong with him? I
think so, if we have him. But if he has recovered and is working well, right, then obviously we'll go for the Red Mill Tour.
Yeah. And what about Dunguib, Philip? Because, I mean, some people might say he's been a hyped horse, but of course he hasn't been a hyped horse because he's a multiple Grade 1 winner. Came to Cheltenham, obviously a hot favourite. With the benefit of hindsight, not the biggest disgrace in the world to be beaten 2 lengths by Minora, and of course some would argue went a bit round the houses as well. The way things have gone this season, you can't be quite so disappointed with that effort.
Well, the form has worked out well, that's for sure. And obviously on the day we were a little bit disappointed. But anyhow, yes, of course, and then you'd Oscar Whiskey finishing fourth. So the form is still fairly solid.
Yeah.
Now, whether it's his champion hurdle form, is another question to be answered kind of there. But anyhow, at the moment, or all along, we have great belief in this horse.
Yeah.
And if it so happened his work wasn't as good as it could be or it should be, I mean, we could always maybe rethink and maybe have an entry in the Coral Hurl.
In the what?
In the Coral Cup.
Right. Okay. So he could almost go. He could even go for a handicap rather than the champion.
Well, I'll tell you. We'd have to run well in the Red Mill Tour first of all before we decide what the next course of action would be.
So that's a little bit of a bombshell.
Well, there we go now.
I mean, fascinating stuff. Physically, blood obviously isn't necessarily what you describe as a physical problem. There's nothing physically wrong with him, is it? It's just his blood that wasn't right.
That's right. We were more than happy with him up and in. And funny enough, by the way, a fortnight before that, we'd have taken a blood test from him and all that, but it was good. So we were surprised. It was a routine blood test, and there we go. It didn't come up to scratch.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed for 2 weeks' time. I'm going to ask you this because it's a bit like the Sam Whaley-Cohen situation. If I didn't ask you and it changed, I'd look an absolute muppet. I'm presuming Mr. B.T. O'Connell continues to ride this horse this season?
Well, first of all, now, Matt, he's no longer a mister. He's B.T. O'Connell, and that's the idea that he is going to ride him, yeah. He
definitely keeps the ride. I know you must be sick of people asking that kind of thing, but if you don't ask and then suddenly Tony McCoy ends up on it, you look stupid. So, we'll keep our fingers crossed for 2 weeks' time, and let's hope he gets a good run, and if not, well, Coral. Wow, that would be interesting. Look,
that's right.
Philip, keep up the good work with him. Let's get him right. Let's get him on the track. We know he's a class horse, and let's hope things start picking up for you in the new year.
Lovely. Thanks, Matt.
Take care, Philip.
Okay, bye now.